multifaceted woman who has dedicated many years to our very own university as a medical professor, who has impressive commissions such as memberships to committees within the World Health Organization, the World Bank, and being the former chief executive of the Hospital Authority, among others. However, Professor Vivian Wong is also the chairwoman to Friends of the Earth.
Arthur C. Clarke once said, "How inappropriate to call this planet Earth when it's clearly ocean," articulating how endangered the world we live on actually is. Perhaps Professor Wong can tell us about how to be eco-friendly in preserving the shrinking amount of Earth that we live on in her talk. We have ODD, Overdosed and Overdrafted.
Okay. Thank you. I'm so happy that still some people are around here. I was actually told by Vivian that there's a dress code. And the dress code is Back to the Future. Right, here I am. All right? So maybe you can look at this. This is serious, okay? And I told Vivian this doesn't count in the 18 minutes for the TED Talk. This is the prelude, okay? And what is it? Well, this contraption has a name. It's a scene called Letter to Paul. And who is Paul? Paul was my husband. He died at the year 2000. My children, our children, Kay and Jim, 10 years later, founded a fashion design house by the name of Daydream Nation. And every season, their designs have a theme. And that season, it was called Letter to Paul. And everything was designed by them. My son did write a letter to his father, and it is embedded in somewhere here. You can see some words. If you have a close-up of this, you can see the words. All right? He took a long time pretending or copying what his father's calligraphy is, and actually wrote 23 pages of letter to his father. And eventually, at the launch of this season, he burnt letters, magic paper, at the Times Square as a tribute to his father. Now, what did his father, what did Paul gave them? Gave them the ability to dream. Both of them are designers and artists. And that is why I wanted to take this, because my memory is actually not very good now. And today I actually feel so much in terms of the positive vibrations and the harmony with a lot of the performers and the speakers here. And, just now we had this wonderful presentation by Brian. My son is actually also a singer-songwriter. And we had this, indies, all right? He was an indie, but then he actually now worked with Tan Hoi. Just now we talk about, Wong Yo Ming Ming Go, all right? And we talk about the demonstrations out there. My son was there with Ming Go singing. Every time when there is a demonstration, they go and give the spiritual support for the students. Right? So that is where the positive vibe and connection comes in. And we had Eve, who talked about designers and they are wiser and smarter and so forth. I can't agree with her more, right? My children, I think, has chosen the right profession. And then Jing An. My son is also actually in the theatre. When he studied in London, he did his master's degree at the Central School of Speech and Drama. And he's now actually rehearsing for a play at the end of the month, experimental theatre. So the thing is, I can see what they do, perhaps resonance with what you think and what you do. And hence, this attendance here today is much more meaningful to me. And I hope that what I'm going to give you, in the 18 minutes, hopefully, is going to be meaningful to you too. Basically, I feel that maybe you'll find them boring, but it would actually link up. I suppose all of you were here this morning. Were you all here this morning? Can you remember the first video? Where you have all the data, the bubbles, going forwards and backwards, You saw that, all right? You see some of the bubbles in my PowerPoint, all right? But it's not so interesting because it's not actually manipulable. But I would actually, in this presentation, give you two messages. One is that we are in trouble. We, all right? We have overshot, we have ODD, I will tell you, we're in trouble. And then I will tell you that there is a way out, and see whether you agree with me. Okay, let's start. All right, so what does ODD mean? Overdrafted, that's easy, all right? You all know, your credit card, you've overdrafted, so you're asked to pay. Then overdosed, you know that overdose, okay? But indeed, what it is, it's actually overconsumed, and with all this. So it's not necessary for me to tell you that actually is poor for your health, okay? And as a medical doctor, all right, obesity is the biggest problem in this century, okay? So we have overdose on food. And then we talk about GM food, we talk, oh, this is something that, maybe the new arrivals in Hong Kong don't know. This is actually the government's campaign to ask people, okay, let me go back. The government's campaign to ask everyone to actually save on food and not to waste food, all right? Not to waste food. 大嘥鬼. So in Cantonese, 眼闊肚窄, the big eyes but the very small stomach, okay? So that's a campaign, all right? And the other things, you know the story about shark's fin and all that. I won't talk about it. Now, this is the message. This year, August 19th was the Earth's Overshoot Day. And what is it? Well, it's very simple. We are in deficit. Okay, so the D here is a deficit. You all know deficit. And so it's ecology footprint, okay, minus biocapacity, and we have a deficit. That's simple. But what is it? All right, you all know about balance, income, expenditure. So one is income, the other is expenditure. So it doesn't need me to tell you that the income is the biocapacity and the expenditure is the ecological footprint. And when the expenditure is more than the income, we have a problem. Okay, so what is ecological footprint? Okay, right. You have 6 things there: crops, grazing products, forest products, seafood, built-up land, and carbon footprint. All right. What about biocapacity? Biocapacity is what our earth, what our assets are. All right. What you have in the bank. The earth is a bank. All right. And these are the things that we talk about: cropland, grazing land, forests for products, fishing grounds, built-up lands, and forests for carbon sequestration. Simple. All right? These are all the renewable natural resources, okay? And that is our ecological asset. So that's the asset in the bank. The earth is a big bank. All right. Then, so, very simple. If you can't read the words, doesn't matter. Anything that's green is good. Anything that's red is not good, right? When you have an account, you're in the red, means that you're in debt. Okay, so this shows, very simply, that up to the year about 1970, the Earth actually has still some green. So that was okay. And that was the crossover point. From that period onwards, we are, oh yeah, my finger is too big for that, okay? So, so therefore, we have this deficit that is growing, okay? Now, what is going to happen? What is the Earth Overshoot Day? I don't think I have enough time to actually show you the video, so I'll just say that in this video, this was actually the year 2010, in which they talk about monoculture farming industry. So we have big farms, all right, that actually farm one thing. This is small farms, local farming, all right, and the advantages between the two. Later on in the talk, then we'll cover that, all right, and so Earth Overshoot Day would actually, that would be one of the remedies. Okay, what is ecological overshoot? Okay, that's another video which don't have time to show you, but it's an accounting too, right? We talk about money, so it's accounting. And it's simply that, the nature that we have versus the nature that we use. Again, it's like your money, right? How much money do you have in the bank? How much you use, all right? So when you subtract one from the other, then you know whether you have enough money. Okay, So this is the picture I borrowed from the World Wildlife Fund. Okay, you see the Earth. That's like the apple, but we have eaten so much of it, it's going to break. So over the years since 1970, we've been eating into the bank. We've been overdrafting. So very soon, we'll be in big trouble. Okay, so this is the chart. And then, if we continue, project on the same path, with the current trend, by the year 2030, we will need 2 planets. You can see this is 2. All right, the calculation by the year 2030 is 2. Okay, you know, this is 1970 is 1. Okay, so it's gone up like that. So we're in big trouble. And this is just to give you some context of Hong Kong. You don't need to read all the small prints, just to note that right at the end you have this little thing. That's the flag of Hong Kong. Hong Kong's there. There's only 8 countries that have a larger per capita biocapacity deficit than Hong Kong. So Hong Kong is number 9 when we count from the worst backwards. Okay, so give you some more about Hong Kong. So this is how much we have: 0.03 global hectare, and then the ecological footprint is 4.7, is 150 times that. We are world's number 2, Asia's world's number 9. Oops, sorry, my big fingers. Okay, and Asia's number 2, and second only to Singapore. All right, so it's just a little bit better than Singapore. But whether any one of you comes from Singapore, all right. So, but that's not something for us to celebrate. Right. What is in it? What's the problem? So you look at the breakdown of what we actually, our footprint consists of. You can see quite clearly: food, fuel, transport, and clothing. In Cantonese, "衣食住行" is pretty much that. The daily things that we need. We spend so much. Why is it that we have such large ecological footprint on our food? Okay, so we look at the next one, and you look at food alone. Are you surprised? 30% on seafood. Actually, the sea, we are digging deeper and deeper into our deficit because we consume so much seafood that is not ecologically friendly. All right? Other processed foods and vegetables as well. Okay, now just go back to the overall credit and debit. Remember I said green is good, red is bad. Okay, we're going back to the rest of the world. Taking you back to the year 1961. Okay, looks pretty green, right? So you know whether you are. Okay, remember this. Okay, then we look at the next one. What happened? 2008, everything has gone red, almost. Okay, so that is our problem. The whole world is actually having too much in terms of consumption. Now again, countries that are in the red, and I would want to sort of give you this very simple idea about GDP. So along this axis is GDP, right? Nearer here, you're richer, okay? And this axis is biocapacity reserve, the green one, and then below the 0, that is biocapacity deficit, right? So obviously, the green one up there is good, right? And the red one here is bad. But what about this bit? In fact, this is also below 0, and it's biocapacity deficit as well. We don't have Hong Kong here, but if we actually plot, Hong Kong will be somewhere around here, like UK and Japan, so in this area. So our gross GDP per capita is actually okay. We make more, but we use our money in order to buy the things from above. All right, so we are not here. But these are poorer countries, like China or India is still there. All right, where the deficit is actually capacity is overused. Okay, then the next one, another concept I want to give to you is the Human Development Index. Okay, what does it mean? I think in the presentation this morning, this was actually touched upon. The gross national income, the health, and education. These are the major things that you count for human development. Okay, and that's how they calculate the Human Development Index. Again, green is good and red is bad. Okay, so in the right lower corner, you have the Global Sustainable Development Quadrant. Okay, so what is this? And so you can see that the HDI, the maximum is 1, so it's over there. Okay, and this is 0.6 something, which is the cutoff point. And this is the ecological footprint that we've been mentioning quite a bit. And you can see along the line that this red line is Hong Kong. Okay, so we've been increasing over here. And this line is China, and we've been increasing along there as well. Now the thing is, while we increase our GDP, we also increase our ecological footprint. Okay, so we also increase our ecological footprint. So therefore, we are in the right upper quadrant, which is not as good as the right lower quadrant. So this is the concept of, spending more, being more affluent, having a higher GDP doesn't mean it is good. You have to see how you achieve that GDP, right? That is the message. I want to bring you to the second part of my talk. And that is the point. I don't know how many of you have read the book Prosperity Without Growth? Any economist student here? Yes, you have, right. Good. So that would resonate very well. So Tim Jackson wrote the book in 2008 and published it in 2009. And this is a talk he gave in Helsinki 2010, a year later. And that was after the market crash in 2008. Okay? And this is the ideal. All right? So I've given you the first part, what our problems are. And then I believe he has given us the answer. Okay? So besides what we talk about, this is what everything that we are doing wrong, okay? With climate change, with all the biodiversity losing, the pollution and everything, okay? That is something that these are things that we need to improve on. And the dilemma of growth. This is from Tim, and he's talking about growth as we do it now is unsustainable. The apple, all right, is actually cracking. So we cannot grow at this point. But degrowth is unstable. How can we degrowth? I don't see how we can degrowth, okay? So he's talking about how we actually do this by pursuit of labor productivity, structure of debt, the means of creation of money, and the pursuit of profit. So these are all economists. All right, we're talking about money, talk about the country's fiscal plans. So how do we do that? Okay. So he's talking about this another prosperity. This prosperity consists in our ability to flourish. The word is, how do we flourish as human beings within the ecological limits of a finite planet? Our planet is finite. The Earth is finite, okay? How do we actually do it? How can we flourish within these limits? We know we have limits. Like you have a limit in the amount of money in your bank. So how do we survive on it? So we have to do it together, okay? And these are the essential things we talk about. Material conditions, food, clothing, and shelter. But these are the more important things, the values of our life. Social and psychological flourishing, identity, meaning, the role of social goods and public spaces. So these are things that hasn't been mentioned in the past. But for a human being, for all of us to be happy, the second and third bullet points are actually more important. Right, so he talked about a different economy. So 3 points in a different economy: ecological investment, ecological enterprise, and ecological macroeconomics. Okay, this is easy. But this is something that we want the governments, the big enterprises to think about. Low carbon transition, ecological assets, social goods, and decent livelihoods. All right, how do we do that? All right, the second thing is ecological enterprises. Enterprises at the community level, providing services, building capability, supporting communities, and treating lightly. The third one about macroeconomics. I'm sorry, the words aren't very clear, so I'll actually tell you this. And also the circles are gone, all right? There should be circles, arrows go around. So there are 2 circles. In the middle is ecological enterprise, all right? And then this links with the people. So participation and then capability. So like a circle like that. Up there is ecosystem. So you have ecological enterprise, again, it goes around like this. And by doing this, you have ecological productivity up here in this circle, and improved in the flourishing in the lower circle. And then these are the ecological investment, ecological services that we mentioned earlier on. All right? So that is model of how these things would work. Right, then we have to talk to the governments, all right? This is UK, so you talk to the governments, the parliament. Ecological footsteps. So you have three things: establish the limits, fix economics, and change the social logics. Right, so these are the points. There are 12 points there, all right? It sounds strange. Maybe for people who are really not in politics and economics, this sounds foreign. But suffice to say that we have to talk to the governments to talk about fiscal reforms for sustainability, promote technological transfer and ecosystem protection, all right? And then to fix economics. We talk about the macroeconomics mentioned earlier in the last PowerPoint about sustainability. Invest in public assets and infrastructures that will be sustainable. Increase financial and fiscal prudence, improve economics accounting. But then the social logic perhaps is the more important one, that you and I may know what they are talking about. We share the work and improve the work-life balance, that you know, right? Human resources. Tackling system inequality. But the green ones, as I said, is always good, right? So we mentioned flourishing many times. Measuring the capability and flourishing. Strengthen human and social capital. These are the people, capital that we need to develop. And obviously, the last one is perhaps the most difficult. The one in red is consumerism. All right. So, can we have this is actually the short video I took. If you go onto the website and talk about Earth Overshoot Day, you'll see a lot of them. But this one I thought was really quite cute, and it shows the fun. Looks on. Okay.
Oh, shoot! Earth Overshoot Day. On this day, we've maxed out a year's worth of Earth's natural resources. Things like forests and fresh water. Resources that provide us with food, water, and energy we need to thrive. And we still have nearly 5 months left in the year. So, what does this mean exactly? Will there still be food tomorrow? Of course there will be. But think of it this way. It's like we're stealing from our kids' college fund. If we continue at the current rate, we will bankrupt the planet for our children and their children. But we can turn things around. It's time to balance the checkbook and get our planetary finances back on track. How? By changing the way we think about what we consume every day. We need to cut back on waste. It all starts with us. Even small changes can really add up. Shop smarter. Buy products with the FSC logo. Ride your bike more. Turn off the water when brushing your teeth. Turn off the lights when you leave a room. Get solar panels. To learn more about Earth Overshoot Day, go to worldwildlife.org/overshoot.
Okay, right, so that's simple, right? So what she said we can all do. But with that, would that be enough? The point is, this is just individual, right? So that's not enough. So we talk about the green economy, all right? I hope that will be the answer, all right? So we have to make societal changes. We talk about consumerism, all these sales and bake sales and things like that. Can we resist the temptation? Okay, so can we establish some ecological bounds on human activity and fix the illiterate economics of relentless growth? You see, we can't grow forever, okay? And a proper balance between novelty and tradition. Transform the damaging social logic of consumerism, and it's gone, okay? Reduce balance between self and society for the public good. So we have to change our mindset, all right? So we're talking about not me, but us. We're talking about public good. So this is the societal changes that we need. Okay, second one, how do we do it? Operational principles of productive activity. So what are the productive activities? And this is important. You have 4 points there. These are things that we all need: food, health, transport, communication, education, recreation, repair, retail. Now, the important thing is, we have actually almost forgotten the word repair, right? Here is repair. And there are communities now in the world who actually mix that into an industry, all right? Or your iPhone, iPhone 6 come and you throw away your old iPhone 4 or 5, all right? And they don't get, be used again. Something goes wrong, you throw it away. But you don't have to do that. So the throwaway mentality has to go. And we have to revive, this practice of repairing and making things work again, maintenance, all right? Provision of decent livelihood and low material and energy throughput. All right, so those are things that was mentioned earlier too. Okay, the third point, personal and community-based changes. So this is actually a talk about individual frugality. The word is frugality, all right? No more consumerism, no more spending a lot, all right? So spending a lot is beyond money, all right? It's not just money that you have, but also non-money things, resources like water, like food, all right? So you have to be frugal. And then voluntary simplicity. So you need the simplicity of life. And these are the things that, we have to learn. And finally, this is a message. We talked about the ecological footprints that bankrupts us, all right? We are in debt. So we have given you the answer in small steps about the ecological footsteps that was mentioned earlier on in the various details. Now, the answer is we have a Green New Deal. I don't know how many of you actually watched the UN marches in New York a week ago, or rather 2 weeks ago, right? Sunday, it was Sunday. And in anticipation of the UN Climate Summit, which was 22nd to 25th of September. And so we have to actually respond to it. We, meaning we have to push the governments, the big enterprises to respond to it. And the New Deal is that a new engine of growth. So we're not saying that we're without growth, all right? Because Tim was saying that prosperity without growth. People won't accept it. We can have growth, but a different type of growth. Putting the world on the road to prosperity again. This is about growing the world economy in a more intelligent and sustainable manner. And how do we do it? We need action. The word that came from New York at the UN summit was action. And maybe we could end with just a few words in the introduction by Leonardo.
Any other gathering, my friends, this body, perhaps more than any other gathering in human history, now faces this difficult but achievable task. You can make history, or you will be vilified by it. To be clear, this is not about just telling people to change their light bulbs or to buy a hybrid car. This disaster has grown beyond the choices that individuals make. This is now about our industries and our governments around the world taking decisive, large-scale action. Now must be our moment for action.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.